Passover?
Oh, that's funny. Hmm.
How long does
Let's
Purim
see.
last?
More or less, I don't know, quite a while.
Purim is one day. Purim is one day.
Is it only one day?
I thought so.
Purim.
Passover is in April.
We're approaching
Mhm.
Passover.
We are approaching Passover. But
Mhm.
today there's another miracle going on, and we're going to try and figure out if it's closer to Passover or closer to Purim. Um,
Oh.
yes. Okay. We're going to start. If you have not yet said your morning prayers, we're going to make the blessing that we make before we learn Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
You know,
haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Torah.
Introduction to this morning's class. If any one of you have not been living under a rock, you will know that there is a war going on in Israel right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're all familiar with. All familiar.
Oh.
And since this war broke out with Iran, Israel has been absorbing barrages of missiles, and we have been spending many, many hours in shelters. If you have any friends or family in Israel, you'll know that if you're speaking to them, then all of a sudden you'll hear the whale in the background. They'll say, "Okay, I'll call you back."
That's as loud as it can be.
And for many people, this is wakening memories of
Mm-hmm.
something that happened in 1991. We've spoken about it a
Mm-hmm.
few times here. I'm sure you're all familiar. What happened in 1991? Gulf War. The Gulf War, when Israel endured the missile attacks from Iraq. In those days, the voice of the Lubavitcher Rebbe rang clear and loud and strong, repeatedly emphasizing that the land of Israel is not a dangerous place. The land of Israel is the safest place in the world, the safest place where a person could be. And the Rebbe encouraged Jews to remain in the country, and Jews who had plans to visit the country, the Rebbe encouraged them not to cancel their tickets, but to continue going. And the Rebbe was very strong about his belief. In fact, there was one person. I hope we don't go too far off topic with this. There was one lady who came, and she said, "My sister in Israel asked me to come and ask you for permission." Sorry, she had a sister who had a son who was in yeshiva in Israel, and the they wanted to bring their son home, and the Rebbe said, "No, keep your son in Israel, in the yeshiva there." And she said, "Let me just see if I can put that on. She wanted to come to the yeshiva in Israel, and to come home from the yeshiva in Israel." And the Rebbe said, "No." And so then the lady said, "But my sister, this is her only son. If God forbid something happens to her, she's ruined." And the Rebbe said something to the effect of, "In Israel, I have many only children." The Rebbe viewed every single person. The Rebbe wasn't saying that, go there because we need a strong presence in Israel. No, the Rebbe said, go there because I know you and I believe that the best place for you is in Israel. There's the late Solomon. And I forgot to start off with my bad joke this morning. This morning's bad joke is that there was once a person, and good morning, good morning. Good morning. There was once a person, and he was going to his friend's new, how do you call it? Inauguration party for his new job as a CEO of a big company. And he gets there, and he's shocked to find that the flowers that he bought for the arrangement had a big inscription that said, "Rest in peace." He was so angry. It was a nice party, anyways, but he was so angry that on the way back, he stopped off at the florist to give them a piece of his mind. And the florist says to him, the lady behind the counter says, "I hear that it's bad, but think of it this way. Somewhere today, somewhere in the city, someone is getting buried underneath a flower arrangement which reads, Best of luck with your new location.
That's great.
So we all know that back to the Gulf War, we all know that after the Gulf War, indeed, there were tremendous miracles, and the Rebbe encouraged everyone to thank God for those miracles. We can't just
We're talking the first time, right?
1991. So we can't just take these miracles for granted. We have to remember and understand what's going on and act accordingly. So we're going to reflect on how the Rebbe viewed those events and what we can learn from his words about the meaning of miracles and God's uh, careful and close watch over everything that happens and cause of everything that happens. And through this reflection, we can draw the strength and the faith for the reality that we are facing today. Today already, it's not as scary as it was then, but also it's good to remember because sometimes we don't focus on what's going right, we focus on what's going wrong. It's very easy to say, oh my goodness, the anti-Semitism in America is getting out of hand. At the same time, yes, it is, and we have to take whatever steps we have to take to make sure that we are safe and our loved ones are safe. At the same time, we can't forget that we are seeing miracles of immense proportions that the Jewish people have not seen in a long time. And we're going to look at the Gulf War, we're going to look at Purim, we're going to look at Passover, we're going to bring that all together today, and we will say thank you to God for everything that he does for us. Do we need to go into any background on the actual Gulf War, what the circumstances and the issues were at the time and the fear?
You're the only one here who remembers it.
Okay, good. So,
What were the miracles though that happened after? I mean,
What was that war?
that Israel was not killed with chemical warfare,
oh, right, yeah. Yes.
that the surrounding nations did not join in the fight.
That they were asked not to defend themselves, to leave it to
Yeah.
America to defend them.
The other, the other, they, well, I mean, Iraqis were Arab, and the Arab nation didn't join.
Jordan set up defenses against their border. The tensions were very high.
Yeah, but,
Saddam Hussein was trying to get
Kuwait,
not only Kuwait, he invaded Kuwait,
right?
but he was trying to get all of the entire region into this fight against
Right.
Israel,
Well,
and they were
What-
getting ready for it.
what happened was after a few days, in order to provoke the other Arab nation, he sent missiles into Israel. But he wanted to provoke the Arab nations against the United States.
Yep.
And the Arab nations, who didn't like Iraq to begin with, said, no, I'm not falling for it. Right now, you're our enemy, not them. And you're not going to bamboozle us. that
Right.
way."
But if you think about it, that's what we see looking back at the story. Or looking forward
Well,
at
at
the
the time,
story.
every time everyone realized that.
Right, but before that started happening, yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty. Let's say today, right? With at the beginning of the war, before Iran started firing missiles at all the other Arab countries around, nobody knows how the UAE, how Qatar, how Turkey, how
Before it played
Jordan.
out that way, there was uncertainty.
There was a lot of fear in the months leading up to
Right.
the war. People were freaking out.
I don't recall really,
There were many world leaders who were warning of a war that would be the most destructive war since World War II. It was a huge issue.
Well, I mean, the whole war, what, 3 days, 4 days?
That's looking back.
Yeah, that's funny.
So
That's
let's
Monday morning quarterback. No, even at the time.
meaning let's say even today,
I mean,
right?
there's no question.
There's let's say today the war that's going on right now. We're going to discuss this more a little later. But who would have known that the U.S. would have got involved in the way that they did, and that the Arab nations would have got involved in the way that they did, and against Iran, not on the same team as Iran,
All right, been around.
Today, I'm saying.
Oh, today, oh,
So,
no,
so
right today.
this war could have turned out very differently, and still can. And there's still missiles falling on Israel all the time. It's and you have also now a lot of you have not only you have you have the far right and the far left and all the crazies and all the is someone knocking on our door? Yeah, someone's knocking on our door. Would you be able to grab it, please? And all the crazies who are the terrorists who are the sleeper cells down here. Everybody's against the Jews, and it's nobody's our friend. Morning, Adia. Good to see you.
One thing the far right and far left can always agree.
It's the Jews. Exactly. It's the only thing. The only thing that everyone agrees is that it's the Jews.
How are you? Hi. Nice to see you.
That's funny. Where do you guys know each other from?
One day I went for Shacharit to,
To the shul here.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So source number one. This is the Rebbe in a letter. This was also the Gulf War, interestingly enough, also happened between Purim and Passover. And 10 days after Purim in 1991, on March 11th, the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent out a letter. And Baruch, would you like to read for us? Source number one. This is a free translation of the Lubavitcher Rebbe's letter. Baruch, would you like to read for us? Source number one?
Coming from Purim, a time of miracles shown by God in those days and in our time, and approaching the festival of Passover, which celebrates the season of our liberation, when we thank God for the miracle and wonders He showed us during the Exodus from Egypt. This is an appropriate time to pay complete attention to the miracles and wonders happening right now. These are open miracles, not only for the Jewish people, but for all nations.
Okay, so the Rebbe says that whenever we say, right, the blessing Sha'asani Sim Lavotenu, that God made miracles for our fathers in those days, in this time of year. And the Rebbe says, well, let's look at the miracles that we're going through right now. Go for it.
The Rebbe continued to enumerate the miracles of the Gulf War. A. Under normal conditions, it would be anticipated that many nations would be dragged into this war, culminating in a world war, God forbid. However, miraculously, not only did the war not grow, but it quieted
I'm
down.
going to pause you for a second. Zalman, even though those nations were not friendly with Iraq, they also were very not friendly with Israel.
Yeah, but they knew that, it's not a threat to them, as long as they get Iraq,
So, well, whenever Israel was never a threat to anyone.
right,
Right.
but this time Iraq
Was-
started a war by invading,
Right.
right, as opposed
Right.
to.
My point is that it makes a lot of sense for any of those who hate the Jewish people to, and especially the again, you'll know more about the geopolitical space at that time. But when your enemy is under attack, is an opportune time to overwhelm their defense forces.
But it's also so that the enemy of the enemy of my enemy,
Is my friend.
right?
Right. Yeah, I hear that, but it would have made a lot of sense, and especially in the days leading up to the war, there was a great fear that that other nations would piggyback on that and come similar to what happened by the Yom Kippur War.
Also, well, you think this time it was the United States saying, "Okay, we're going to handle this. Everyone else, back off." And Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states were perfectly happy to let that happen because they did not like Iraq. They did not.
But before the United States said that, so we're gonna look
Well,
at Purim,
it
and you're
happened
gonna
very
understand,
quickly. It
right?
happened very quickly. I mean, and
What
Yeah,
happened
there-
quickly? The actual war happened very quickly.
Well, the whole
But
series of
the-
events. from the
There was a
invasion-
lot of tension
No,
for
from the
months leading up.
from the invasion of Kuwait to the war, it was very short period of
Right.
time, I forget. And, you know, and they were worried about going into Kuwait, it would go into the other Gulf states. And then
He
Saudi
said he was
Arabia-
heading towards Jerusalem.
Well, Saudi Arabia.
I'm saying Saddam said he's heading to Jerusalem.
Yeah, well, he said, but he will. Hey. And Bush won. Said, okay, I'm not gonna let that happen. We're gonna take care of it. The Saudis also different fighting. They had to support. And they told the other states, stay away. We're gonna handle it. Leave Israel alone. And then when Iraq tried to provoke the other Arab nations by sending missiles into Israel, the other Arab nations said, no, Israel has the right to defend itself with the understanding that, and as I said that, they had the understanding that Israel would not defend itself because Bush told them not to, and there was actually quite a bit of sympathy for Israel at the time. I remember news broadcasters showing Israelis in the bars playing backgammon during the air raids, and they kept making references to England under the Blitz. You know, so I mean, you know, actually, it was probably for a few days, the world was looking pretty favorably on Israel.
We're looking favorably at Israel, but we don't need the world's sympathy when we're about like. I mean, there's a reason why everyone was sympathizing for Israel. Israel was not in a good space.
They're probably already planning memorial ceremonies.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
But
you know,
and
on the other
the-
hand, Israel
Designating which parks are going to be turned into cemeteries.
also, besides, you know, giving in the pressure from
Bush.
If your opponent wants you to do something, you don't do it. And if you're playing chess, and you know your opponent wants you to make this move, you don't make that move. Iraq wanted Israel to respond so that the other nation would feel pressure to
Right.
respond to Israel.
So we're looking
you
at.
don't take the bait.
You're going to see.
But
We're going
on
to look
the
at it.
other
There's
hand,
there's two
remember,
ways of looking at
you
everything.
still have, if you're Prime Minister of Israel, your government's still facing domestic pressure to respond as
Right.
any
So let's continue
populace
reading.
would. What's the first order of business of government? But to protect its own citizens, lives itself, in spite of the fact that Democrats stand for that. And at the last State of the Union, yeah, it is the first responsibility. So he was under domestic pressure too.
Well,
Yeah.
I think he-
Okay, let's continue. Let's
I think
continue
that's
on,
what
and
Prime
let's
was
agree
that?
that in the months
Yeah.
leading up, there was
What
a tremendous fear that many other nations would join, and thank God they didn't, and that's a miracle.
Well, all signs pointed to a great and protracted war which would require a mighty army with the most advanced weaponry. Victory was achieved in a very short time.
Like you said, Zaman, it was a matter of days. It was not a matter of months. And see,
This incredible victory prevented more killing among the nations, and the enemy released prisoners of war, including of past wars.
thank you. And then there's also, I don't know why he doesn't bring it here, the fact that the chemical warfare that he never deployed, which was very surprising, since when you had the war between Iran and Iraq, he had used such weapons and he didn't hesitate before using such weapons. And even after the war, the American general Norman Schwarzkopf, he sounds Jewish.
I don't think so.
He wasn't.
No.
Anyway, he acknowledged that he had no explanation for why chemical weapons were not used.
What was
So-
that?
Probably afraid that they probably have a bomb now.
Who knows? And when the war with Iran and Iraq, he wasn't worried about that. Okay, so page number 2, the rabbit added.
That's because
Moreover,
Iran did that.
Okay, could be. We can find explanations for everything, and that's what we're going to see when it comes to Purim. Go on.
moreover, those informed on the events behind the scenes exposed to classified information not revealed to the public grasp the sheer magnitude of the miracles even more.
And the Rebbe says that as a person who did have, I don't know how, but the Rebbe had access to very classified information. The Rebbe, for sure, in the Israeli military, also in the American military, the Rebbe was very in the know, in ways that people. The Rebbe would speak with uh, high-ranking officers in the Israeli army and speak with them as if he had just come out of the briefing room, and sometimes had even more updated information or perspectives that they themselves didn't have. It was a wonder. You can look. There are a series of videos, possibly books as well, of interviews with these high-ranking Israeli military peoples, and the respect that the Rebbe had amongst the Israeli military was phenomenal because of his knowledge, understanding, and advice on the subject, and care, of course. So that's from the letter of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I think that this comes. Okay. Section number B. Let's look at we have Exodus in every generation, as we say in the Haggadah, that in every generation we have to see ourselves as if we have come out of Egypt. Page number 3, the miraculous way in which God led the Jewish people from slavery to freedom during the Exodus from Egypt was not a one-time event that happened only then. Rather, in every generation and every single day, a person must see themselves as if they themselves left Egypt today. Moreover, the redemption from Egypt paved the way and established the capacity for the freedom and redemption of the Jewish people throughout all generations and times in a miraculous manner. The redemption from Egypt is the starting point, and it includes all future redemptions. Since in every generation a person must see themselves as if they themselves left Egypt, and the Exodus is the starting point that includes all later redemptions of the Jewish people, it is clear that by reflecting on the miracles and wonders of the Exodus, we can see how they are reflected in every generation and every day through the miracles and wonders of the present. Through them, God saves us from their hands, from those who rise up against us in every generation. This will ultimately culminate with the miracles and wonders of the complete redemption, which will resemble the miracles of the Exodus from Egypt, as will be explained. In source number 2, we have an explanation of why the Shabbos before Passover is called the Great Shabbos, Big Shabbos. What's so special about the Shabbat before Passover? So there's a lot of historical context over here. Ariak, would you like to read for us source number 2?
The Shabbat that precedes Pesach is called Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat, because a great miracle occurred on that day. The lamb to be offered for the Paschal sacrifice in Egypt was set to aside on the 10th of the month of Nisan, and it is written, on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb for a family. That day was Shabbat for the Jews who left Egypt on a Thursday, as will be explained in section 4941. Since the 15th of Nisan was a Thursday, the 10th of Nisan was a Shabbat. When the Jews took the lambs for their Paschal sacrifices on that Shabbat, the firstborn of the nations of the world gathered around the Jews and asked them, "What are you doing this?" The Jews answered, "It is a Paschal sacrifice to God, who will slay the firstborn of Egypt."
I just want to pause you for a second and think about the magnitude of what the Jewish people did then, because the lamb was considered a god, and the Jewish people were told that you are supposed to slaughter this lamb on the 14th day of Nisan, the day before you're going to be redeemed. Today it's hard to think about that, but I have a certain imagery that I came up with a few years ago that I think really brings this to the point. Could you imagine if every Jewish household in the United States would be commanded by God to put a big flag outside of their house, because in 4 days we are going to burn the American flag? And you would have all the goyim asking, all the non-Jews, all the neighbors would say, why are all the Jews putting up this big American flags outside their house? And you would say, in 4 days, all the Jewish people are going to have a national burning of the American flag. How do you think that would go down?
Oy vey.
right? It wouldn't be good. And part of the incredible faith that the Jewish people had was to go ahead and do this and to take this lamb 4 days before. And when the neighbor said, "Why are you taking these sheep into your houses?" they had the strength and courage to say, "This is what God wants us to do, and in 4 days we're going to slaughter it."
And
So I think that
and,
imagery.
and it's even further. It's even further than the American flag. It's a it's it's a it's a it's a it's it's the cross. It's a cross because the lamb was their God.
It was their God, but I feel like the cross
Lamb
doesn't
was
have as
Egyptian.
strong of a.
Considered God.
The sheep were God's God.
That's what
They
that's
didn't
why
eat meat.
that's why the zodiac sign for the month of Nisan, in which Pesach falls, is Aries.
Okay, so that's the significance of their response. Keep going. Yeah, so the Jews said, "Yeah, because God's going to kill you all, and that's why."
The firstborn of each family went to their parents and to Pharaoh to ask them to release the Jews, but they did not agree. The firstborn then waged war against Pharaoh and his supporters and slew many of them. This is alluded to by the verse to strike Egypt with their firstborn. The rabbis established the commemoration of this miracle for future generations on the Shabbat preceding Pesach and called it Shabbat Hagadol.
Okay, thank you. So that is what happened. A huge miracle that happened then. Okay. Says the Rebbe on page number 5, the basic sequence of events during the redemption of and exodus from Egypt was as follows. The redemption and miracles began with the great miracle, even before the festival of Passover, of God smiting the Egyptians through their firstborns. It was the Egyptians' firstborns themselves who struck the Egyptians. This is described specifically as striking, not killing, because the firstborns did not kill all the Egyptians, they merely struck them. In fact, there was an advantage to the Egyptians remaining alive, because they themselves later came to recognize the miracles and they themselves drove the Jewish people out of Egypt. So that was the first part. Then on the 15th day of the month of Nisan, the exodus itself took place. It occurred when the Egyptians themselves hurried to push the Jewish people out. The Jews left in complete manner with great wealth, carrying their silver and gold with them, the Egyptians' silver and gold with them, in fulfillment of the verse that they emptied out Egypt. They received silver vessels, gold vessels, and garments, and were even given items that they didn't ask for. The exodus was not complete until the final stage, the splitting of the sea. Even after the Jewish people left Egypt, the Egyptians still remained powerful, and they pursued the Jewish people. The fear of the Egyptians still hung over them. Page number 6. But with the drowning of the Egyptians in the sea without any survivors, this came to an end. The only survivor was Pharaoh himself, who later became the king of Nineveh, the story of Jonah, who was kept alive so that he could personally witness the miracles and wonders that God performed for the Jewish people. So,
Killing the firstborn own children, or what about like firstborn adults?
any firstborn. And it didn't matter if it was the firstborn of the father or firstborn to the mother. And because there was a lot of promiscuity over there in Egypt, there were many people dying in the house. And that was part of what made the Egyptians very afraid, because they said it's not just the oldest in the house who's dying, everyone's dying. They said that enough is enough, get the Jews out. Superpowers fighting for us. Regarding the miracles of the future redemption, the verse states, as in the days when you left Egypt, I will show you wonders. It is clearly observable to all that the miracles of the exodus from Egypt are reflected in the present day victory. This is the Rabbi talking about the Gulf War. Both in the victory itself, as well as in the time when it occurred during the auspicious days of the month of Nisan. Even before the festival of Passover, an event similar to God striking the Egyptians through their firstborns occurred. The firstborn of the nations of the world, including representatives from the country of Egypt and the nearby Arab states, through the decisions of their delegates in the United Nations, fought against and struck the contemporary Egypt, which is the enemy of the Jewish people. Egypt in the sense of being a source of oppression and distress for the Jewish people. On the festival of Purim this year, a year in which I will show you wonders, the victory occurred. As announced, yes.
I didn't get that.
The Rebbe is saying that the Egypt of that day was Iraq. And Iraq was smitten through the firstborn of the world, which is all the delegates of the nations of the world. Or more specifically, the US, which was the greatest of the nations, the military superpower. On the festival of Purim of that year, a year in which I will show wonders, the victory occurred as announced by the nations of the world. His downfall occurred in a manner of striking rather than killing, and it happened specifically through non-Jews, the firstborns, who rebuked and humiliated him, forcing him to regret his earlier actions. He was compelled to surrender and carry out all the commands and orders given to him by these firstborns, to release some of the prisoners of war, as well as other matters that were demanded of him. Later in the month, in its final days, the miracles increased even further. He agreed to everything, without the need for any further action or warfare. Another huge miracle. He even revealed money and property that he had hidden away, assets whose existence were not even known until then. And a similar phenomenon is taking place today. The greatest superpower in the world, which can be deemed as the firstborn among the nations, has mobilized to fight the war of Israel. It is waging an all-out war against those who have sworn to destroy everything. America has gotten involved in it in a beautiful way, fighting alongside Israel in a way that I don't think any two nations have fought alongside each other so well ever, and it's incredible.
Thank God.
Passover-like miracles, page number 8. So now we're going to look at the difference between Passover and Purim. These miracles are taking place during the times of the year that are especially connected with miracles for the Jewish people. First, on Purim, when the miracle of victory and deliverance for the Jewish people and the downfall of Haman, the wicked enemy of the Jews, in the kingdom of Persia and Media occurred. And then, linking one redemption to another, the days of the month of Nisan and the days of Passover, when the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt with miracles and wonders. So let's look at Purim. It was a natural miracle. The miracle of Purim was a miracle that took place within the natural order. Only by connecting the various events of the beginning of the king Ahasuerus. How do you pronounce his name? Xerxes? Achashverosh. I know Achashverosh. We'll just say Achashverosh. With the events that started in the third year of his reign. So if not for the book of Esther, we actually would not necessarily even realize what kind of miracle we're talking about. Because it started in the third year of his reign, and we're going to read through, maybe we're going to actually just skip through that part in interest of time. So it started in the third year of his reign, then the events of the seventh year of his reign, which is how many years later?
4.
4. Then we have the month of Nisan in the 12th year of his reign, which is another 5 years later. Esther's banquets for Achashverosh and Haman much later, and by viewing them as one continuous story and reflecting on them, does one recognize the hand of God within it. When we read the book of Esther, when we read the story of the Megillah, it seems like this has all happened one after another. Wow, big miracle. But if you think about it, it actually happened over many years. So if you could imagine a Jew doing Monday morning quarterbacking back then, or living through it even, he would, let's say you have a Jew who was far away from the capital city of Shushan. He lived, I don't know, somewhere in Tasmania. And he was hearing the news the way people receive news in a newspaper. So the first thing you hear is that the king made a big feast in the third year of his reign, and he killed his wife. From that perspective, it's just like a political story that happened in the royal palace. You guys can look through the texts to see the timeline from the actual Megillah. 5 years later is when Esther was chosen to be the king. It would be very pleasing for them if they figured out that she was Jewish. Somehow the king himself did not find out that he was Jewish, or in the words of Yochai Sponder, Israeli comedian, he says, so Esther comes to the feast with Haman and the king, and says, Haman wants to kill me. Haman wants to kill you? Yeah, I'm Jewish. He says, what? You're Jewish? She says, yeah, you don't remember? We had a rabbi, you broke the glass, you must have been drunk. You were there, right? Okay, so then 5 years after Esther becomes the queen, Haman comes to power. And suddenly terrible news arrives about a decree to destroy all of the Jewish people. And then Esther goes to the king and pleads before the king, and the Jewish people are saved. So any normal person living at the time would not necessarily see a big miracle here and would not connect all the events, right? The king got angry at his wife, he killed her. 5 years later, you have a story, oh, we have a new queen. 5 years later, oh, we have a Haman. But when the sages come and connect the entire story together, it becomes very clear that everything that happened was leading up to that moment. The removal of Vashti led to Esther becoming the queen, her being in the right place at the right time to save the Jewish people, Mordecai overhearing the story of Big Son and Sarah never being never being rewarded for it. So, if only when you look carefully do you realize what kind of a miracle took place. And that is also one of the reasons why God's name is not mentioned in the Megillah. It's a book of scripture. Why is God's name not there, right? It's not a book that you have to worry that people might not pick it up if it has God's name. It's scripture. People are picking up scripture are looking for God's name. So why is God's name not there? Right? Not turning anyone off. Like, so one explanation is because the miracle of Purim was not an open miracle. The name of God is not revealed openly within the story, but it's hidden within the natural chain of events. And only if you look carefully and connect all the events together do you see the hand of God operating behind the scenes. Now, when it comes to Passover, that's a little different. Nobody has to convince anyone that a miracle happened. The plagues, the superpower of the world, Egypt, who not one slave ever left out alive, and here you had 3 million people, or 2 million people, just walking free. The splitting of the sea, I don't have to convince anyone that the splitting of the sea is a miracle. I think everybody around at the time, in fact, all waters in the world split at that time. So even the people who weren't there by the ocean or who weren't close enough to see it, they saw it in their cups. The manna that descended every day to feed the Jewish people. I don't think I have to explain to you that that was a miracle. I think that's pretty clear. On Passover, everything was open and obvious, whereas on Purim, everything took place within what appears to be the normal framework of nature. Says the Rebbe on page number 10. By contrast, the events taking place at that time by the Gulf War are open miracles and wonders, miracles that are visible not only to the Jewish people, but also to the nations of the world. And I think that it's very clear if we look back that until 2-3 years ago, Israel was surrounded by what was called a ring of fire. Hamas in the south, Hezbollah in Syria in the north, the Houthis in Yemen, and above them all, Iran, the primary sponsor of terror in the region, in the world actually. And in those days, especially leading up to October 7 and at the beginning of October 7 and just the people who were keeping tabs on what's going on, it was very nerve-wracking because there were a lot of enemies of the Jewish people. And also within the war, we had strikes from Hamas, from Hezbollah, we were fighting everyone at the same time. And it seemed like the entire world was against us. But let's look at this just a little more than 2 years later, and a dramatic reversal has taken place, and that ring of fire has sunk in flames. There's not much more Hamas. Hezbollah is not much more of a threat. And now Iran, not so much either. And we have all the Arab countries. There was a list somewhere someone sent of many Arab countries that are involved with retaliatory strikes that are hitting Iran as well. It's not only the U.S. and Israel. There's a lot more going on as well. Section number D, page number 11, says the lesson from all the above is very clear. When we see the miracles that God performs, it awakens within an even stronger recognition that God is the creator of the world and its guide, and that he constantly performs miracles for the Jewish people, saving us from the hands of those who rise against us. It's very important for us not to just walk through life and say, yeah, there are other people doing other things. It's very important for us to recognize, and we're going to see soon why it's so important for us to recognize and appreciate the miracles and thank God for these miracles. They're huge miracles because what's turning out to be an incredible victory could, God forbid, have gone very much the other way.
Yeah. Mhm.
This is especially so because the present miracles reinforce and remind us of feelings that we are as if we are leaving Egypt, and that not only our ancestors did God redeem from Egypt, but He redeemed us together with them. The redemption from Egypt is the starting point and includes all later redemptions, even the redemption in which God will redeem us from all the troubles that come upon us, as mentioned above. Therefore, we offer praise and thanks to the one who performed all these miracles for our ancestors and for us, who brought us out from slavery to freedom, from sorrow to joy. Also, another quote from the Haggadah. Increase in Torah and mitzvahs. Another essential point. The primary way we merit to receive these miracles, and even had God increased these miracles, is by increasing our study of Torah and our observance of the mitzvahs in the best possible way. Page number 12. Sorry. This includes also the mitzvah of tefillin, which is a sign and a remembrance of the exodus from Egypt, and to which the entire Torah is compared. Tefillin causes that all peoples of the earth will see that the name of God is called upon you, and they will fear you. Even the nations of the world will tell us that our past and our future successes come from the fact that the name of God is called upon you. And they too will give thanks to God's name. And so it's very important to add in mitzvah observance and learning of the Torah. Dancing in the streets. May God help every member of the Jewish people to have eyes that see, ears that hear, and a heart that understands and appreciate the great trials that your eyes saw, those great signs and wonders, the open miracles that occur every day. Even if there remains a Jew who still doesn't notice the miracles and needs someone to explain things to him, this should happen in the easiest way, pleasantly and peacefully, with joy and a good heart. It is enough to point this out to him just once. May it be God's will that there be no need for people to speak to one another about the miracles, because everyone will see them openly. The miracles will be so tangible that we will be able to point to them and say, look at this, acknowledging and thanking God for the miracles. So much so that we will not even be embarrassed to break out in dancing because of the open miracles. Page 13. We won't convince ourselves that there is no reason to dance and make a commotion about the miracles that God is showing. On the contrary, we will come to recognize the complete truth. First, that God is showing open miracles, and second, that this should bring us great joy. Section E, let's learn from Chizkiah. Why is it so important to thank God for miracles and even dance in the street? Anyone been to Israel and visited Chizkiah's tunnel? Something you don't forget. Apparently, you have to walk in knee-deep water to get through. It's underneath the city. And he built the tunnel while he was king of Judah about 2,700 years ago.
In Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem, under the city, under the houses of the city of David.
The what?
Under Ir David.
By the coastal?
I wasn't there, so I don't know. Somewhere near the coast. It's in Jerusalem, so it's gotta be close. Okay. So the story is that during the Assyrian Empire, not Syrian, Assyrian Empire, there was a big general, and his name was Sancherib. Maybe he was the king. Sancherib was his name. I don't know how they call him in English. Sennacherib? I don't know. Anyway, Sancherib. This is about 700 BC. And the Assyrians had conquered many parts of Israel already, and they were marching on to Jerusalem. And he set out on a military campaign that he was trying to conquer Judah, which reminds me of a post that I saw the other day, and I thought it was brilliant. The guy said, it always baffles me when I see a Caucasian person of English descent, of European descent, sitting on Native American soil, discussing the indigeneity and the right of Jews to live in Judea. Okay, so to prepare Jerusalem for the siege, Chizkiah built this tunnel that would help bring in water so that they could have water even while the city was sieged. So in the end, Sancherib came to Jerusalem with 185,000 soldiers, and he came on the eve of Passover. Sancherib ordered his soldiers to build a tall tower for him, and he climbed up to it to look over Jerusalem. When he saw the small city, he said, "For this I brought my whole army? Tomorrow, everyone is going to bring one brick from the wall that surrounds the city, and in this way we will enter it and leave nothing of it." The chief of staff of his army was a Jewish apostate named Rav Shakeh. He went up to the wall of Jerusalem and spoke in Hebrew. And he addressed the Jews who were under siege and tried to persuade them to surrender, claiming that they had no chance of being saved from the mighty Assyrian army. Inside Jerusalem, there was also a dispute. The majority of the Sanhedrin, who was led by a holy man by the name of Shevna, who was the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, and he believed that the city should surrender to the enemy. However, Chizkiah had received instructions from the prophet Isaiah not to surrender under any circumstances. When Chizkiah told the prophet that the majority of people believed that they should surrender, Isaiah answered that against the will of God there is no majority. The conspiracy of the wicked is not counted. Chizkiah then informed the people of Jerusalem that everyone should go home and do their Seder properly, and God will save us. Sancherib saw such an easy defeat, so he told his soldiers, you guys have off for the evening, go relax. I don't know, they were probably the army, not the navy, so I don't know if he told them go get drunk or not. But anyways, he said, we're going to postpone the attack until the following day. And that night, on the night of Passover, when this apostate heard the Jewish people reciting Hallel during their Seder, he invited Sancherib to leave the city. And he told Sancherib that the night of Passover is a night of miracles for the Jewish people. But Sancherib did not listen to his advice. Chizkiah himself was ill at the time. And Chizkiah said, God, I do not have the strength to fight this army. I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. God, fight for me. And that night, God sent an angel and struck down most of Sancherib's soldiers. They woke up in the morning, they were all dead. And the few that were still alive ran away. Jerusalem was saved. However, something fascinating happened that the Talmud tells us about. Zalman, would you like to read for us source number 4 on page 14?
God thought to make Hezekiah, Mashiach, and Sennacherib into Gog and Magog.
In other words, God wanted to bring Mashiach at that time. And the king, the righteous king, would have been the person Mashiach. The story of Sancherib would have been the war of Gog and Magog that happens before Mashiach comes, and we would have been in the Messianic era already. Two great superpowers that fight against each other. Many people want to say that that's what's happening now with Iran and the United States.
I mean, it's hardly a superpower.
Not anymore.
Even that was.
Two great nations.
Yeah, but they were putting up a good bluster until they're
Also, if you think about the amount of terror that they've caused.
right.
Okay, continue.
The attribute of justice said before God, Master of the universe, David sang so much praise before you that you did make him the Messiah. Will you now make Hezekiah, for whom he performed so many miracles, yet he sang no praise for the Mashiach?
Look at that. Why justice getting in the way? Our sages taught God sought to make Chizkiah Mashiach and Sancherib into Gog and Magog, but because of a side issue that Chizkiah did not sing praise before him, the matter was delayed. And we're now almost 3,000 years later. Right? 700 years before the Common Era, now we're at 2025, 2,700 years ago. This serves as a very important lesson. As the Rogatchover Gaon once said, everything that's written in the Torah is law, not merely a story, God forbid. When we receive blessings from God, we must give thanks and sing praise. This means not only feeling gratitude in one's heart, but also expressing it in song with the mouth until the song reaches the level of all my bones shall declare. This is the level of song which could actualize God's desire to make Chezkiah the Mashiach. The matter of recognizing and expressing gratitude is so significant that because he did not sing praise for the miracle, God's desire to make him the Mashiach was dismissed. This story teaches us a great lesson about expressing gratitude, about singing praise for the great and wondrous miracles that have been done for us. So we shouldn't get stuck on small, painful events, but look at the bigger picture and thank God every day and every moment for the miracles and wonders that are taking place with us. The Rebbe says that for miracles like these, we should go out and dance at the time of open miracles, and it should be with great joy. In the Megillah, we receive the name Jew from the word gratitude. The existence of the Jewish people, every part of our existence, is rooted in gratitude to thank God for all the blessings, miracles, and wonders that we experience. We rise up in the morning, the first thing we say is Modeh Ani. Prayer begins with these words, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. And in the Amidah we say many times, we give thanks to you. Gratitude is very, very high on our priority and always on our lips. This is the calling of the hour, to thank God and to rejoice in the great miracles that are happening to us. And there is no period more fitting for this than the days between Purim and Passover, the days of great miracles. It is a time to pause, reflect, and give thanks to Hashem for all the goodness and kindness that he bestows upon us. And just in those days, in this time, we should go from one miracle to the next, and God willing, by Passover already, we should be celebrating in Jerusalem with the third temple. If that, God forbid, does not happen by then, please sign up for the Seder. We'll be starting the Seder at 7 o'clock here on April 1st. Your reservations will be good for the Seder in Jerusalem. We will honor them even with the change of place. Yeah, of course. God is going to take us on eagle's wings. Sorry, first class. First class. God is going to take us out of Egypt and coach. Key points. Page number 15. In 1991, the Gulf War broke out. The Lubavitcher Rebbe reassured the public, saying that the land of Israel is the safest place. Indeed, great miracles occurred for the Jewish people and for the world. A world war was prevented, victory was achieved quickly, and much bloodshed was avoided. In the exodus from Egypt, the first miracle occurred when the Egyptian firstborns went to war against their own people, paving the way for the liberation of the Jews. Similarly, in the Gulf War, the firstborn among the nations fought against Israel's enemies, ultimately leading to complete victory. Another lesson from Egypt in our times. The miracle of Purim unfolded within the natural order and was apparent only when viewed as a whole, unlike the miracles of Passover, which were open and above nature. Likewise, the events of the Gulf War showed open and tangible miracles. Open miracles inspire recognition that the world has a creator and call us to thank and praise him, even expressing joy outwardly to the point of dancing. The story of Chizkiah teaches us a lesson. After God saved Jerusalem from Sancherib's army, Chizkiah could have become the Mashiach, but this was prevented because he did not sing praise for the miracles. This teaches us that when one experiences a miracle, it is essential to recognize and praise God, not only in the heart, but also with words. Takeaway. When we witness great miracles happening before our eyes, it compels us to stop and thank God for his great kindness and protection of the Jewish people. This gratitude can also be expressed through actions, by increasing Torah study and fulfilling mitzvahs. Think about one action you can take upon yourself as a way of thanking God for the great miracle. God bless you all. Thank you,
God bless you.
Joe. Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Welcome, Ariak. Thank you, Mordechai David. Thank you, Chaim. Thank you, Zalman. Thank you, Baruch.
You.
Now look at that, 3 minutes early.